Third down and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 24 of the 3rd and 20 podcast. My name is Frank Entwistle. We've got my co-host Ryan Steed. What is up, Ryan?
Howdy, y'all.
So Ryan is a tad sick. That's what word on the street is, at least. So if he sounds a little bit off, that is why. But let's just get right into the episode.
2.
What was up?
It could be Corona Part 2. It could be the flu, or it could be just a simple cold. You never know these days, you know. You used to, back in the day, always be able to tell what your sickness was, not after Corona. But let's get into it. Let's dive in.
All right. So the first thing, let's just dive into this. First off, screw Corona. They're number one. That's the first segment. Second thing, I want to get into Daniel Jones because I think that a lot of Giants fans are questioning whether or not Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for the New York Giants for the long term. And should the Giants be looking at a new quarterback in the offseason? So I set out on a quest. And my quest was to figure out whether or not Daniel Jones, in fact, was or should be the starting quarterback for this team. And I think the first thing that we have to look at when we're analyzing Daniel Jones is who was he coming out? Who was he as a college prospect? And I think the best way to answer that question is with this clip. Because Daniel Jones, the first thing you notice is just his comfort in the pocket. The guy, he just looked like he belonged in an NFL pocket. A lot of that has to be credited towards David Cutcliffe, his coach, who got famous for coaching Eli and Peyton Manning when they were in school. And a lot of those traits seem to be passed on to Daniel Jones. And the other thing, not only was he comfortable in the pocket, his footwork in the pocket was really good as well, which is really all on display in this clip against Clemson. Daniel Jones, this Duke team that he was on was honestly atrocious.
They were horrendous.
They were terrible. And he legitimately carried them. They would probably be a team with a losing record if they didn't have Daniel Jones. Some of the other strengths that I liked when he was coming out was he was good at reading defenses. He knew the look that he was getting pre-snap, and he knew exactly where he wanted the ball to go. He was able to use his eyes to maneuver safeties and zone defenders to where he wanted them to be so he could fit a ball into a tight window. And he's a tough kid. He's not afraid of contact. He'll step into contact. But what were his weaknesses? And I had two major glaring weaknesses with Daniel Jones coming out. The first and the biggest weakness for me was his deep ball, his go route, 45 yards, drop it in the bucket. And it was just super inconsistent. Whether, on this clip, he's going to be throwing it short. There were times where he would throw it long, and it's not a question of his arm talent. It's just a question of his touch and his accuracy. Whether it was an off-platform throw on the run or he had time and space, he just was not able to hit this throw consistently. And the other major issue that I had that you'll see on this clip is just that there were times where he just kind of made some mind-boggling throws into coverage. I don't know if he thought that he could fit a throw into a window that was really tight, or he just didn't see a defender, but he would do that on a relatively consistent basis. And my last minor issue that I had in my notes that I had to scrounge up from 2019 is that I thought that he would hold on to the ball a little bit too long at times, but every college quarterback does that. So it wasn't a major negative. But now we need to fast forward to 2020. Daniel Jones has started 22 games for the New York Giants. And we've got to see a lot of tape from Daniel Jones. A lot of good and a whole lot of bad. Steed will be the first one to tell you about his turnovers. I'm pretty sure he mentioned it on either the last episode or the episode before last. And
I think it was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, you have the stat, right? The that Jamarcus Russell stat?
Yeah. I mean, through the same amount of games played, to whatever point, whatever episode I said it in, to whatever point, of their career they were at the same game mark, he had more turnovers than Jamarcus Russell. So I mean, like, not the category you want to be put in, but
Yeah, not
you
exactly the guy you want to be getting compared to as a first round pick. Jamarcus Russell.
mm-hmm.
He's the worst end of the spectrum of guys to be compared to. And one of when I did my Daniel Jones film analysis of his snaps this season, one of my main problems that I had with his tape is that, and this was one of his strengths that I just said that in 2019 I thought, is that he's not reading defenses post snap quickly enough, and he's not making decisions quickly enough. And I think that this play does a really good job of illustrating that. So on this play, you're going to have Sterling Shepard, the outer guy in this bunch. He's going to run a little drag route. And then Golden Tate in the slot is going to be running a post. He's going to go out a little bit and then like a quick slant, kind of like a diamond slant. And this play, I am 90% sure in most offenses is known as flanker post. And what you're looking for is, okay, if it's man with no one in the middle, you're just going to hit the drag. And against any sort of zone, the drag should take a linebacker or a slot corner, whoever's in that zone, and then open up space right off the back of it for the post. And on this play, first off, it's man coverage from the Bears, and you're gonna see both guys open. You have Sterling
Mm-hmm.
Shepard wide open, ready for the drag, and then in behind it, Golden Tate's got space too. And what does Daniel Jones do? He doesn't throw the ball. He gets strip sacked for a turnover. And I think you get a really good angle of it from the back here. Like, he just takes too long to make up his mind to read the defense and make a throw because it's there. By the time he wants to make this throw, he sees this safety playing as a robber coming underneath towards this drag, and he hitches the ball twice, he fakes it twice, and then once he decides, oh crap, it's too late, it's not there, he moves on to the post. He's done. The pass rush has gotten there, and this is a major problem that I saw because this is week 2. This is his second season. He is not a rookie anymore. He already had 10 starts or 11 starts actually under his belt.
Yeah.
This is an easy throw. This is gimme yards. This is not, this is a look that you like to see as an offense. He is running wide open, 3 yards of space, safety 15 yards away. This is a throw that Daniel Jones, at this stage in his career, not that he should make, he should be able to make it with his eyes closed. So let's go into another clip. This is week 1 against the Steelers. And this is the turnover where he holds onto the ball for too long. Bug Dupree hits his arm when he's trying to throw it away, and it ends up as an interception on the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at this, and let's just rewind right here. Just take a look at Saquon Barkley in the flat.
Yeah, he's wide open.
Not,
That's a touchdown right
yeah,
there.
he's open, but not only that, you have Saquon Barkley up against defensive backs. This is the exact matchup that Jason Garrett wants out of this play. You just give the most talented running back in the league the ball in space. That's a touchdown. And this is just another example of Daniel Jones taking way too long to make a decision. Now, when he wants to throw it, he's looking at Saquon. It's not there. He's trying to find something open in the end zone. And he even takes so long that when he tries to throw it out of the back of the end zone, his arm gets hit for an interception. This is just unacceptable. And this has been a common theme for Daniel Jones. This is not something that happens only once or twice a season. I could go on for it probably an hour with examples. I'll keep it at 3. And then this is recently week 8, Monday Night Football against the Bucs. Everyone probably knows this play. This is the 2-point conversion play where they try to hit Deion Lewis. First off, this is an unbelievable play call by Jason Garrett. This is open. This should have tied the game 100% because they have a rub route. They have both of these tight ends, and then this guy out here just creating so much of a mess for Winfield to try to get through in man coverage on Deion Lewis. The ball should be out of his hands way earlier than he threw it. once the ball is snapped, he should be looking to get the ball out of his hands. Just throw it here. Throw it here. What is he waiting for? What you just have to ask yourself, why is he waiting? Is he just not processing the play quickly enough? I mean, granted, Winfield makes it a really good play, but this is wide open. And it should have been a tie game. And these are the problems that you see in Daniel Jones. And I was someone that liked Daniel Jones coming out. And it's just frustrating because to most quarterbacks in the NFL, these are gimme throws. These are, oh, it's wide open,
Yeah.
it's quick. Just give it to me. Let me take what the defense gives me. And this is not his only issue. Not only is he struggling to make decisions, he's struggling to get through his progression. And after watching a lot of his film early in the season, I've coined this thing the Daniel Jones process. And the Daniel Jones process is basically, he does what he did in college. He reads the defense pre-snap and he picks a matchup that he likes. Hey, that's all good. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, these are guys that made a living off of doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then he stares it down. He's not able to read the coverage post-snap quickly enough, and he stares it down. And there are one of 4 outcomes that happen in the Daniel Jones process. The first, and the best, is that the guy he's staring down, the matchup that he picked pre-snap is open, and he makes the throw. Makes it quickly, on time. It's good. All good. Hey, that's fine. But then there's the 3 outcomes that happen when he is covered. The player that he's staring down is covered. The first, the other good result from the Daniel Jones process generally, is he gets the ball to his check down. Hey, all good. Hey, that's exactly what you're taught. Your read isn't there. Get the ball to a check down. You're supposed to get through your progression a little bit generally, but hey, it's fine. Read, check down, all good, all good. But then there are the 2 outcomes you do not want. And here is the first example of the outcome you don't want. He just throws the ball anyway. He just says, fuck it. I'm just throwing the ball in a tight window. Like that problem that I mentioned with him coming out of Duke, just those errant throws. Just what do you see in there? Well, I think that's a problem of him not being able to recognize coverage and process information quickly enough post snap, and that problem seems to be amplified with the speed of the NFL. So here's a play against the Bears, probably his worst game of the season, and he's just going to be staring down this tight end right here. He does not get through a single player, a single read, aside from this tight end running this curl. And the problem is that they have a safety that is reading Daniel Jones's eyes. He's looking, where is Daniel Jones going to throw this football? And this safety in the NFL is obviously going to see if you're staring down a player. He makes a really good break on the ball. Ends up in an interception for a touchdown. I believe that's Eddie Jackson, by the way. Now, luckily for Daniel Jones and the Giants, this was called back as pass interference, which was a very questionable call in my opinion. But he got away with one there. But this is the problem. And then we get to the other part of the Daniel Jones process, which is sometimes equally as bad, is when instead of just throwing the ball into coverage, then he tries to make plays with his legs, which kind of has a large variance of outcomes. We've seen, especially in recent weeks, Daniel Jones make some really good plays with his legs scrambling. But then you get plays
Really
like this against the
fast.
Bucs, where he's changing some pass protection, doesn't get through his reads, tries to find the check down isn't there, and what are you doing? What are you doing? And the big problem I have with this play, and what I have with the Daniel Jones process in general, is that, okay, we're going to see, let me skip too far. He's going to be reading this Golden Tate in the slot here. Not open. Okay, he's not open there. Then he gets to the check down. Check down isn't open. Then he goes and tries to use his legs. The problem with that is that he is not going to see this receiver wide open over the middle. He's got the time. He's got the pocket. And this is one of the other issue when you look at these problems that Daniel Jones is having is that this was looked at as a strength of his coming out of Duke, is his presence in the pocket, his willingness to not escape the pocket, his decision making pre-snap and post-snap, the way that he would read the field with his eyes and maneuver defenders. And one just has to beg the question, is the game just moving too quickly for Daniel Jones? Because it's almost like his strength was his play in between his ears. And now that's become his biggest weakness, is what's going on in between his ears. Because this is a play that could easily be a first down. And it ends up as an interception. He starts trying to use his legs. Someone starts hanging on to him. He sees Golden Tate get a yard of space. And for some reason, he thinks that he can make this throw. When he has a guy wide open over the middle of the field in a clean pocket. Okay, not the cleanest of pockets, but there's no one within 5 yards of him. This is to an NFL level quarterback in his second season. This is a throw that you need to be making. There's really no excuse for this. You're not a rookie anymore. You can't use that excuse. And it's just frustrating. Let's get to the positives. I've crapped on Daniel Jones. I'm making fun of him with this Daniel Jones process. But at the end of the day, he's had some pretty successful weeks these past couple of weeks against the Redskins and against the Eagles. 2 big divisional games. And he's coming out with wins, and he's not turning the ball over. Now, why is that happening? I think the first thing is that you have to give credit where credit is due to Jason Garrett and the Giants' offensive line. The Giants' run game is much more productive than it's right now in these past couple weeks than I've seen in the past 2 seasons. And that's with Saquon Barkley. The offensive line is doing a really good job. And supposedly Joe Judge has been spending a lot of time with that group. So whether it's Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, whoever, you have to give credit to them because they are making space for the Giants' passing game. The second thing that I think that Daniel Jones is doing better recently and why there's hope for Daniel Jones, and you need to give him until the end of the season before you make a concrete decision, if you're the Giants general manager, on whether or not you're giving up on this guy, is that you're finally seeing things that he did well at Duke. You're finally seeing the flashes. And I think this play against the Redskins is a really good example. I showed that clip, first clip, him using his eyes to maneuver a defender, snaps back to the seam and finds an open tight end against a good Clemson defense. Well, look how Daniel Jones is able to use his eyes to maneuver this safety to the right and then hit a vertical to the left. They're running a 4 verticals concept. And he opens up looking to the left. And it takes the safety, drags him to the right side. Which then in this 3-high zone creates a 2-on-1 for this corner. You can either cover Evan Ingram or Mack on the sideline. And Danny Jones does a great job of finding him and throws a great ball. This is a 50-yard. This is a huge play for the Giants. And you're finally seeing these flashes that Daniel Jones showed at Duke. You're finally seeing why you took this guy early in the first round. And the other thing, too, with Jason Garrett, not only is the offensive line playing better, I think they're tailoring the concepts that Daniel Jones is running towards his strengths. Yeah, he's not able to read defenses quickly in the quick game. But I will give Daniel Jones credit where credit is due. In the intermediate passing game, he is elite. He is very good on digs, deep curls. With time in the pocket and time to read the defense and see what's going on so that he can confirm what he saw pre-snap. He's really good. Just look at, this is a play week 1 when he was playing like crap. Steelers are calling a wacky zone. You have the slot corner, Mike Hilton, just running way down here. Like, what is going on here? Daniel Jones doesn't panic. And look at this throw. He starts winding up this throw on this deep curl right here, even before the guy is turned around, his receiver. This is a phenomenal throw in between 2 defenders. This is on 3rd and 16 from your own goal line. This is a fantastic play from Daniel Jones. And it shows you why you can't give up on this guy yet. And I think recently, Jason Garrett and Joe Judge and the staff have been tailoring concepts to this strength. We're going to see a play here early in the Eagles game. And, at face value, you might think that this is a weird concept. You're going to get a slant from the outside, a slant flat, and you're going to have 8 guys blocking. And on paper, you're thinking to yourself, man, this is kind of a bad play design. If it's not there, if the play's not there, what is he going to do with the football? But think back to the Daniel Jones process and what he's been struggling with this season. He's not getting through his reads. He's not making decisions quickly enough. This is a play tailored towards Daniel Jones. Let him just do a 2-man concept. If it's not there, he'll use his legs and run with the football. What he was doing before, but now you get 8-man in pass pro, and you're letting him work a concept that he loves to throw, intermediate passing over the middle. This is a really nice play from Daniel Jones. You can't say it's not. This is a beautiful throw. It's in the second window, in between 2 players, 3 players. And this is what Daniel Jones' strength is. But at the end of the day, if I'm a general manager, I asked this question at the beginning. Is Daniel Jones the future quarterback for the New York Giants? I'm going to have to say no. And I'm someone that liked Daniel Jones coming out. But at the end of the day, if the Giants are in a position to select a quarterback like a Justin Fields or like a Kyle Trask, I'm just not sure you can pass up on that. I think that Daniel Jones, while he can play in this league, I think that, when you think about who he was coming out, it's just really tough for a player that isn't able to maximize their strengths and correct their weaknesses to have long-term success in this league. I'm just not sure he's processing plays fast enough and processing information fast enough at a position where that's the name of the game. You have to be able to do this. He can improve. He's still young. He's only 23 years old. But if I'm Dave Gettleman, if I'm the Giants general manager, quarterback is not an area that I can overlook. And if the Giants are in a position where they can draft one of these top tier quarterbacks, if I were the general manager, I think it's time for Daniel Jones to be over in New York.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you because I would lean that way too. I know he's not really considered a rookie anymore, but he is still very young. And you've seen him the past 2 weeks kind of play a little bit better, and they've figured some things out, and they've led to wins. Now that doesn't exclude he could go back to his original self where he just is not picking up on plays as fast as he should. And definitely, if there's a player like Justin Fields, and I have to see more about Trask, but a player with the athletic ability of Justin Fields, I don't see how you could ever pass that up. But that being said, if Daniel Jones is able to still improve during this season and lead the Giants to lead the Giants to a playoff and win the division, then I think that choice becomes harder. And of course, then they wouldn't be able to get Fields as they would be outside of that top 18, top 15 pick, anyways. And Fields is probably going to go top 5, top 10. So, but that's what really it comes down to these final 6 games for Daniel Jones if he's going to be in a Giants uniform next year or not. Because if he doesn't continue to improve, then that means the team's not going to win, and that means he's gone. But if the team continues to improve and they win, then it's a reevaluation. But his job would probably be a lot more safer than it would be if they continue to lose.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Right now, Daniel Jones is definitely playing for his job. The one thing I think that is going against him a little bit is that Jason Garrett has simplified this offense because he has a quarterback that has a lot of flaws. And in a league like the NFL, I truly believe that can only get you so far. Obviously, you have to tailor your offense to your players, whether offense or defense. You have to maximize the skill set of your players. But as of right now, and you're right, it's too early to give up on Daniel Jones. I mean, I still like Daniel Jones, and his toughness will get him far because he's the kind of guy that it doesn't matter what the media is saying about him. It doesn't matter how hard he gets hit. He's going to come back, and he's going to come back 100%. But
Really taught that much. I really don't even know what his voice sounds like.
but it's almost it's tough to if I were a general manager, not reevaluate this quarterback position because the guy that we took has so many flaws, and not that he has so many flaws, he's struggling to improve on these flaws, and you can argue from his rookie year to his sophomore season he's gotten worse.
Yeah.
But you're right, he's playing for his job, and he's got a big opportunity here. At the end of the day, it's not over for him. He's only played 22 games. He's been and let me just put this out there as well. It's not like the Giants' skill players have been doing him a ton of favors. Time and time again on tape, especially early in the season, Giants fans know this as well as anyone. Evan Ingram has been horrible. He does for every good thing he does, there's two catastrophic mistakes, that leads to some of these turnovers and lack of success. And the other thing I saw a lot as well is that, especially early in the season, the amount of third and longs you're asking a young quarterback to try and convert is just, it's too much. And that's at least one thing that I like about the Giants a lot now is that with this, almost newly invented running game, where they're creating a lot of holes and a lot of space and a lot more concepts tailored towards Daniel Jones' strength. You're not asking him to put the team on his shoulders, the offense on his shoulders, and for him to, okay, if you throw for 303 touchdowns, we win, but if you turn the ball over, we lose. That's not what you need to do with Daniel Jones. And I think that the Giants, especially Jason Garrett, has realized that. And in his play calling, he's calling a lot of friendly concepts. And you've seen as well a lot of concepts that they ran at Duke now being run in this Giants offense. I saw a couple, where they're shifting the offensive line so that you're getting Daniel Jones on the run, a lot more zone read where you're using Daniel Jones' legs. That has been probably, the shining, the gem right now of Daniel Jones has been he's a lot more athletic than people gave him credit for coming out. He's a lot better
Yeah.
with the football in his hands. Obviously, there's the meme of him tripping against the Eagles when, from the turf monster, but at the end of the day, you can't tell me that Daniel Jones isn't effective with the ball in his hands down the field. He's making plays with his legs, and you got to give him credit where credit is due. And they've been taking advantage of that.
No, that's true. And it's kind of like when we're seeing this new mold of this Giants offense. And before that, it was kind of like if Daniel Jones shined, then the Giants had a good chance of winning that game. But if he got back into his knack of turning over the ball, there was no way in hell they were winning the game. I think that has to do a lot with his mental game. And that's why you saw wasn't maybe the sole reason. Maybe he just clearly doesn't get it at this point of his career, but maybe a little bit in his mental where he's thinking that he has to do too much because if he has to be the man for this team, because if he doesn't make this sort of kind of play, they're not going to win. I mean,
Yeah, you're
it,
definitely right. And that led
it,
to a ton of his mistakes.
yeah. I mean, how many games has Saquon actually played with him? Like Saquon, it was the number 2 overall pick, and he was supposed to be the guy. How many games have him and Daniel Jones realistically played together? I mean, I think it's got to be less than 5. He was hurt last year too, wasn't he?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I think let's move on here and let's talk about the NFC East in general.
Oh, great
Because this
division.
is a division that the Giants, a team with 3 wins at this point in the season, has a realistic shot at the playoffs, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about. A team that has struggled this much and a team that has thrown away so many games. It's almost like you took the Chargers, and even though they seem to lose every game at the end, they still have a shot at the playoffs. I want to ask you who you think right now, if you were a gambling man, which you are, is going to win this division. Who are you putting your marbles on?
I'd still put it on the Eagles.
Mm.
It's getting to that time of the year where like the Eagles win like these last few 6 games, like go 4-2, 5-1 to put themselves into that kind of like playoff run stretch. We've seen it. It feels like the past 3 years with the Eagles, but I don't want it to be Eagles. If I'm just talking from like a fan perspective, I would like to see like a Giants team like Mark in there or something like that. But I think like history repeats itself and the Eagles slowly get in. I remember like Wentz, even though it wasn't a bad loss to the Giants, but like it was a loss to the Giants that you really could like puts the Giants right back in this division. And now like you kind of seeing where that tie could either hurt or help you now. But it's just like you gotta avoid those losses. And I don't see the Washington football team really making a move. And no way in hell the Cowboys making it with their fifth string running back, and you got a middle school defense out there. So I feel like it's just the Eagles for a taking. They're in the driver's seat, even though after the loss to the Giants, which the Giants, like, their defense is probably the best in this division. So, like, the defense, it could easily carry them. And if you see the consistent growth from Daniel Jones, then they could easily win this division with 6 games. I think that's the mark you want to get at, win 6.
Yeah, when we came up with the segment before the episode, I was really scratching my head because it's a big conundrum. I think you're right. I think it's hard to pick the Cowboys right now with how many issues they've had. The fact that they're
Done.
the team that's probably the most behind the 8 ball out of every single NFC East team. So if you look at the Washington football team, okay, what do they have going for them? They have the easiest schedule remaining of the NFC East teams. Okay, well, what about the Giants? Well, they're the hottest team right now. They're a team that's been playing well, and you're right. That defense up until now has been criminally underrated. And I know I was saying, and you agree with me on earlier episodes of the podcast. We've both been harping on the fact that this Giants team has more talent than people thought. And up until this
Yeah.
point, they were a really good team to gamble on. They were a team that they would get some pretty unfavorable spreads for their position. I remember, when I took my dog of the week of the Giants against the Bucks, even though they didn't win that game, that was a 12.5 point spread for a team that has.
It's just unfair.
Yeah, it's on. They have a lockdown corner. They have really good linebackers. They have talent on and I think that Joe Judge is a good head coach at the end of the day. He's had to deal with a lot of adversity, and he's made do with what he has. And he's made a lot of parts of that football team look a lot better than I think they really are. And then you have the Eagles, who are the most talented team in the division right now. On paper, they have the best roster, and they were looked at as a playoff team coming into the season, and they made the playoffs last season. So it's almost like, okay, well, what do I believe in the most? Do I believe in who's hot? Do I believe in who's got the easiest schedule? Or do I believe in the talent? And I still really struggle answering this question because I think it was on the last episode I said the Giants team, if they win against the Eagles, I think would probably have the best shot at the playoffs because the team's hot. They're hot. They're playing well, and they're finding ways to win football games. Jason Garrett and Joe Judge have found a winning formula for this football team. They finally seem to, the past couple weeks, start honing in Daniel Jones and not having him give away the football because this team, yeah, their offense isn't elite, but they can move the football. And they go on a lot of long drives where a lot of the times early in the season, they turn the football over on these long drives, but they would also score on these long drives, especially against some top tier defenses. And now that they have a running game, but I think you're right, though. I think you have to pick the Eagles just because spoiler, I think they win this week against the Browns. They are my dog of the week. We'll get into that later, but I think that tie is going to get them in the playoffs. I really do. I think that tie is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I've seen like these kind of divisions play out before where like that team with the tie goes. I remember Mike Smith's last year for Atlanta. We went 6-10, but that last week we're battling against the Panthers, and they went 7-8-1. That tie really helps. Now the tie sucks because we have to do a lot of math and figure out all these different ends of possibilities. So screw you, Eagles, for making us use our brains. But looking at the Eagles' schedule, yeah, they got to play the Browns. This is in Cleveland. I like the Eagles there too with you, but it's still a tough game. I don't truly know. But then you got to play. Listen to these next four matchups: Seahawks, Packers, Saints, Cardinals. That's a
Yeah, I hear you.
tough
That's a
first
tough
stretch.
schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
But
still choosing the Eagles too. But like you said, if they beat the Browns and then the Seahawks are not playing too well right now, scrape out there. And then if you get the fraud Packers, you can beat them. Saints, they're not gonna have Drew Brees. How they gonna look with Jameis? And then the Cardinals, you know, I mean, I think the Cardinals would beat them out, given out right there. But I mean, yeah, I do. I think this division is going to come down to the final weekend. We'll see what plays out final weekend.
I am in this division. I am heavily rooting for the Giants.
I am
I'm
too.
also rooting for the Washington football team. But the thing is that the Eagles, if they're able to figure out something with their linebackers, because I truly believe that the Eagles linebacker play has been atrocious and been one of the big problems with their defense. I know everyone craps on their
Too
secondary,
early.
which it has been bad, but I think their linebackers also suck and probably suck more than their secondary. The other thing with the Eagles that at least you can look at in a positive light is that Miles Sanders' health the entire season has been a big problem. And if you're able to
Yeah,
get a
very
consistent
bad.
Miles Sanders down the stretch, you could see a lot more offensive production from an offense that's been struggling. And the last thing, and I think we saw it against the 49ers earlier in the season, is that this is an Eagles team that once you start sleeping on them, they can really bite you in the ass. This is a team that is they play up and down to their competition. I think they've proven that. The other thing with this win or loss against the Giants, win for the Giants, is that if you look at the past 3 seasons, they've lost every game after their bye week. You know, so
Wow.
I think that people might be looking into this Giants loss a little bit too much. The Eagles are a team that they can come out, they've proven it, and play like crap one week and then be a completely different team the next week. And I'm just kind of putting my money on that Doug Peterson at the end of the season is going to rally the troops. They know they're in first right now, and they only need to win a handful of games to stay in first.
They
And
need
at the end of the day, they
3 more
can
games.
lose all four of those. If they win this week against the Browns, they can lose that entire 4 game stretch. As long as they win those last 2 games, I'm pretty sure they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
they,
so absurd. They're gonna be like a 5,
they
10,
would
and
make
1
the
team.
playoffs with 5 wins. Oh, dude, yeah. What would they would be? What 5, 10, and 1? Oh my!
You know how we
I want
joke
to play
about
in
how
this
this is a
division.
division for a race to 10 wins? Yeah, cut that in
Oh
half. It's
yeah,
actually a race to 5.
I didn't think this division could get worse, and it did. Like, technically, the Cowboys are only like a game back.
All right, I want to get into Steed. You came up with the segment. I really like this one. Our mid-season awards. I want to ask you. I know you have a little bit of bias on the subject for MVP. Who is your mid-season MVP this year?
Kyler Murray, no, not not Kyler. I wish if he was playing just
Look at
like
his
Kyler
numbers,
and the
man. Look at his numbers.
yeah, he's having a great season, especially now when they turned it up a little bit. But I feel like this is just the year that Russ does it, dude. He got off to that tremendous start. I know they've been lacking the past 2 weeks, and he hasn't played up to par. But right now, the season ended it. Russell Wilson be the MVP because who else are you going to give it to? You can't give it to Lamar. I
No, not
don't
Lamar.
think. Yeah, you can't give it to Kyler. I'm trying to think of who else would you give it to? They're not going to give it to a defensive
Aaron
player.
Rodgers is probably in the conversation, but I'll tell you
Yeah, he's
what,
probably
that
in the
Bucks game is a real blemish on his
yeah.
resume. The fact that I don't want to say that Aaron Rodgers lost them that football game, but in most people's eyes, they're going to say that he lost them that football game, which when you're trying to be an MVP, yeah, you can have losses, but you can't really have lost your team a football game, especially when you have Kyler having his season. And now Kyler has that Hail Mary moment where it's like, okay, that might be like his MVP. You know how in the Heisman in college, you have to have like your Heisman moment?
Yeah, yeah.
That's Kyler's like
Easily
MVP
could be.
moment right there, almost. I think you're right. Right now, if we ended it, it's got to be Russell Wilson. I think that Kyler may have a better chance moving forward because I think that the Cardinals are a team, especially if the Cardinals are
Win.
able to go 2-0 against the Seahawks this season, getting a win on Thursday, then Kyler will be the front runner. As long as Kyler has a good game against the Seahawks, they get a win, then Kyler will be the front runner. But you're right. If we ended the season right now, it has to be Russell Wilson because the guy has been truly incredible with a historically terrible defense, one of the worst passing defense we've seen in our entire lifetimes. And they're a winning football team that, I mean, not just a winning football team, they're a good football team.
Yeah, and let's not forget another candidate, like Patrick Mahomes. Like
Yeah.
Mahomes could easily go out there and win it too. He's having a great season as well. I feel like this is just the year that Russ goes out there and gets his first one. And especially like if the Seahawks can fix their problems, like now they're on a very short week after that loss to the Rams, and they got to go out there and play a team that you just lost to 2 weeks ago, and it's in Seattle though, so that helps. You got a little. Well, I mean, are they even allowing fans in? I don't know. So you would think it would help them, but who knows? If Kyler is able to tear up that, it's just weird. I don't see how the Seahawks lose three in a row.
Yeah, it's tough to think about. And as a Thursday night game in general, we can go on a quick little side note. This is a weird game to pick because I think at first, instantly, when I saw the Cardinals were 3.5 point dogs, I put a teaser on them.
Yeah.
I believe I teased them with, I'm going to hate to say this, I teased them with the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure when they were -6.5 against our Raiders, which I'm honestly hoping that loses because we're a Raiders podcast, baby.
Wow. Mad at me when I was about to bet against the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm contradicting myself. I'm sorry. To every listener, I am truly sorry for picking against the Raiders. I might do it on the card. The thing is that I'm not sure if you got the news. The whole Raiders defense has COVID, or not has COVID. They were like in close contact with someone with the
Oh yeah, I
contact
saw
tracing.
that
So
today.
that's going to be a little dicey. We saw what happened last time when their offensive line was in a similar situation, and I'm pretty sure they weren't able to play. They lost. It just this game for the Raiders is going to be rough, but it's not going to derail our season. This Raiders team, we need to get to the playoffs. That's all we need. That's all we need as Raiders fans is to get to the playoffs. But aside from
Give
the
us a
Raiders,
shot.
yeah, this is a weird game just because on the analysis that I did of the Seahawks defense last week, we saw that Seattle really has a problem with their coverage, and the Cardinals are a team that really spreads the field out, and they make you cover 4 to 5 guys every play, which I really believe is a terrible matchup for the Seahawks. But at the same time, this is a Seahawks team that might be getting Chris Carson back, and like I mentioned on an earlier episode, the Seahawks offense, the Seahawks team in general that can run the ball is a completely different team. They are probably 3 times more dangerous when they have a running back like Chris Carson playing than they are when they just have to rely on Russell Wilson. They can still win games relying on Russell Wilson. But I mean, you can see it clear as day the difference between a Seahawks team that can run the ball and a Seahawks team that just relies on Russell Wilson. And that's the one thing that I said when earlier in the offseason saying, oh, just let Russell rip the ball. And then in the beginning of the season, everyone's saying, oh, see what happens when you let Russell Wilson throw the ball? Okay, yeah, but they still had Chris Carson going absolutely off in the short passing game and running game. And you've seen what happens now that they don't have that running back consistency. They've lost 2 straight games. So that's going to be a fun
Interesting one.
game on Thursday. I'm really excited for it. Also, because I wanted to get into this just a little before, we've been saying fade public consensus on Thursday, and this is one of the few games where public consensus has been on the dog. You can argue that it
Yeah.
was for the Colts because the Colts started off as dogs and became favorites, but they ended as favorites. The Cardinals are not going to end as favorites. So, other than the Colts and like the Jets, this is the one game where the public consensus has been on the underdog. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, with our fade public consensus thing on
I
on
think I
Thursday
know what's
nights.
going to happen. The world's going to explode.
Yeah,
They figured out our secret formula.
it's almost like what would happen if everyone flushed a toilet at the same time. This is
Yeah.
that, but for Thursday night.
The royal flush.
The Royal Game, or I don't know. That's a terrible name. Shun me. But let's see. I wanna get into my team a little. Oh wait, no, we're not done with mid-season awards. What am I saying? Offensive Player of the
Yeah,
Year. Let's speed run this one a little bit.
I got Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, for me, it's either Dalvin Cook or D Hop.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook just came to my mind. Like, had that 200-yard game. He scored
He's just
4
been
touchdowns
ridiculous.
in Green Bay. Yeah, it's just he's putting up insane numbers. Now, I know last game he did have a tremendous game against the Bears, but he's been a beast.
So I saw a really cool stat that basically Dalvin Cook has missed games, and he is still number 1 in points scored this season of all players. And then like the next 15 players on the list are all kickers. Just to show you how good Dalvin Cook has been. Like that
Yeah,
is absurd.
he's missed like what, one and a half game.
Yeah, 1 or 2 games, something like that. I actually do not know that.
I
But
think
he
he's missed
missed
one and a
time.
half.
He has missed time. Um,
He did play against the Falcons. I know that. Big reason why we won.
I mean, I guess you could also consider some of these quarterbacks in it for offensive player of the year. Like, I would not be terribly surprised if they gave MVP to someone like Russell Wilson and then offensive player of the year to someone like Kyler, just because you look at Kyler's stats, especially compared to Lamar Jackson's stats at the same time of last year, Kyler's stats are a lot more impressive. It's just you
Yeah,
kind of have Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes going crazy. The other thing that's interesting about Patrick Mahomes, real quick about the MVP, is that it almost feels like because the Chiefs are a more complete team this year, mainly defensively, it's almost hurting his odds because it doesn't feel like Patrick Mahomes is carrying them as much as he did last year because their
yeah. He doesn't
defense
have
is
to throw
legitimately
70
good now.
touchdown passes.
But who you
He
got
can
for
kind of just
defensive
play
player
the
of the year?
game. It's between 2 guys for me, but I'm leaning Aaron Donald. But I think Miles Garrett's going to easily be in that conversation too.
I think you know who it is for me.
You're going to say T.J. Watt.
No, I actually wasn't. Buda Baker.
Oh, Buddha, 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 Buddha.
Dude, Buda Baker, every single time I watch a Cardinals game, I just get a little giddy because he's just always doing crazy stuff. He's just so good. Like his instincts, how fast he plays. He's like a little missile out there. Like, oh my God, he is tremendous. I think he easily should be Defensive Player of the Year, but that's just me. Because I'm a huge Troy Polamalu fan, I'm a little too
Love the
biased towards
safeties.
good safeties that play fast, but Buda Baker is so good. And that's like everyone might watch Cardinals games for Kyler Murray. I watch them for Buda Baker. He is too good. He's easily my defensive player of the year. But I would not be mad with a TJ Watt defensive player of the year. Let me tell you that much.
See what happens.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens as well. Speaking of TJ Watt, with the Stillers 9-0. You know, I'm kind of ashamed of myself for like being a little bit skeptical initially of their over under of 9.5 wins at the beginning of the season. I did switch it when we had the last minute switches. I was like, okay, I'm taking the Steelers over. I initially took the under. I'm gonna make the excuse because I didn't want to have any bad karma saying, "Oh, I'm taking the over," and then all of a sudden we underperform, and I feel like it's my fault. Did switch it, but
I took the over when we first did no switch, and I took the under on the Ravens. So boom.
boom. I want to ask you, as someone that isn't a Steelers fan, where would you put the Steelers in the power rankings? Because I've been looking at some power rankings now. I'm not really a huge fan of doing that, but they got the Steelers at like 3 or 4 as the only undefeated team in the NFL a lot of places, and I found that a little
Okay.
bit weird.
I get that. I get it.
I get it too.
I but I would put y'all at 2. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the league.
Yes, I can agree with you that the Chiefs are
That
probably
one
number
loss they
one
were
in most
playing
people's
against,
eyes.
the well, of course. Actually, I put them at 3. Number 1 is the Raiders. So
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
on a series note,
Raiders
Chiefs are number
podcast,
1.
baby.
Number 2, I'd put the Steelers there because you are undefeated. Your defense is still elite. And I think people like are just not completely sold. I would this is not me saying this because I think y'all are really good and y'all would have been this good last year if you know you didn't have one quarterback getting brain damage, hitting on the head with a helmet, and the other one that could throw the ball 5 yards. So, but I think like people just look at that Cowboys game and be like, oh well, this is like an undefeated team. Well, you got to remember that game. First of all, you're playing that game away in Dallas after a big win against the Ravens. It's a trap game. Like it's just it is. Like I wouldn't be shocked. But then you go out there and beat a
Yeah,
Bengals
100%.
team by 26 points when the Bengals have shown they are a very competitive team at times and can cover their spread and beat teams of the Titans. So I just don't think like I mean you really like showcase against some like decent teams this year too. I mean Ravens playoff team, Titans playoff team, Browns a playoff caliber team, Eagles playoff caliber, Texans have Deshaun, Broncos are been competitive, and the Giants, believe it or not, playoff caliber. So yeah, I put y'all at 2. I wouldn't.
Imagine saying the Giants at 3-7 are
I
playoff.
have you have to. You have to. It's not I don't make the rules, man. If a division just wants to wake up one year and be like, hey, and all the GMs and coaches get together and they're just like, let's lose as many games possible. So that's all anyone talks about. But like they still got to pick a winner at the end of the year.
So I agree a tiny amount with the sentiment towards the Steelers because I think the whole thing with the Steelers right now, and it was a problem a couple of years ago, was that what are they going to do when they play one of those top quarterbacks? Someone and a top quarterback on a complete team
Yeah.
because I think right now the Ravens have been struggling. So yeah, not Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson is looked at least last year as okay. He was an MVP. He's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Like he's one of the top quarterbacks we played, and it was a close game, and people still value that win against the Ravens. And same thing with like Deshaun Watson. Like okay, Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback, but the Houston Texans have only beaten the Jaguars. Um,
A good
so I
win.
can
Good 2 wins.
yeah, good 2 wins right there. So I can agree with the whole thing. I'm gonna be, it's gonna be interesting what's gonna happen when we have to go up against a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes, because that's who you're probably gonna have to go through if you're gonna want to get out of the AFC into the Super Bowl.
well, it's
But at the
looking
same,
like Well, it's looking like you wouldn't have to face that task until the AFC Championship, regarding either Big Ben or someone else very important goes down. Like unless like you totally collapse here, you're already in the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, you beat the Titans, you can beat the Colts. That doesn't. You can beat the Ravens. You got to play the Ravens again in a week almost.
Yeah, those were.
That'd
I'm
be a
not gonna
crazy
say,
game.
oh yeah, we can we can beat the Ravens, and the Ravens can beat us as well. And the Ravens, I will say, have been having to deal with a lot of major injuries to really talented players that we have had the luxury of almost avoiding, aside from Devin Bush, where we have Robert Spillane. We just traded for Avery Williamson. We have Vince Williams. Like, we have the depth to make up at least enough of the difference for it to not make a huge impact on our defense. And then
Listen,
obviously,
dude, people had the Steelers picked this year as a dark horse Super Bowl team, and the way your defense performed last year and getting a guy like Big Ben back is it's not like the it's not like the Bengals are going out here and starting 9-0 with rookie Joe Burrow. Like I'm not saying this is shocking. Now I didn't see you going 9-0, but to be this good and be a top three team in the AFC and now number one in the AFC, I'm not shocked by that.
yeah, I'm not shocked either. The thing is that going into the playoffs, I do believe the Steelers should be number one in the power rankings. Um, Mainly because if we get the 1 seed in the playoffs and we have that pass rush healthy, because now we got Tyson Alalu back, that nose tackle has been playing phenomenally. We have Cam Hayward, Tuitt, Bud Dupree, and TJ Watt all healthy, all playing well. If we have that in the playoffs up against the Chiefs team, I think that we have a good shot of winning. Not that it's guaranteed or
Easily a good
anything, but
shot. I
at
mean, really,
home with that nasty pass rush, I think that that's a good formula for the Steelers to win against the Chiefs. If we lose that,
yeah.
then it's a different story. But I think that with Ben Roethlisberger at the helm, with the receiving weapons, especially now, it looks like Claypool and Deontay are starting to come into their own a little bit. I think that there is enough here for this Steelers team to take down the Chiefs, especially if it's a home game. So I do
Yeah, no,
believe the
I think
Steelers
this
should
is
be
a good
number
game.
one in the power rankings, but I can see why people have the Chiefs over them. These NFC teams, they're good. They can obviously beat the Steelers any given week, but I'm not sure you can have any NFC team right now over the 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that too many of these NFC teams have shown flaws where the Steelers, not that they're a flawless team, this team obviously has issues. Every team does, but I think that this Steelers team right now has shown way less issues than every other NFC team. The only
No,
team I'm
yeah,
picking
that's
beating
a
the
good point.
Steelers is the Raiders. That's really it.
Yeah, Raiders easy. I mean, that's an L. So, I mean, an NFC like matchup, like if Drew Brees is healthy and playing with the Saints, I think that the Saints could give you some problems.
Okay, well, they'll be in
Buck,
any game with Drew Brees healthy and Sean Payton coaching.
yeah, but like you were just saying, like you don't think there's an NFC team that pairs with y'all. Like you,
No, no,
you
no.
could be.
I think they can beat us. I don't think that there's really any reason you should have right now
Oh,
an
but
NFC team over the Steelers in the power rankings.
no, yeah, no, I don't have that. Yeah, you're number
The only,
two.
yeah, I agree with you. The only one you can really make an argument for, I believe, is the Saints. I can
Yeah.
kind of see the Packers, but I think the Packers showed too many flaws this season, a little bit.
Dude, when the Packers lose, their losses are so ugly that it just like you lose faith in them,
Well, you also
But like
think about it,
they'll
like
have
you
some
look
really
at,
good wins.
yeah, they have
Like
good wins, and the Packers, like, dude, you got Aaron Rodgers, but look, you had that really bad loss to the Bucks, a team with a nasty front seven. You're gonna tell me that if the Steelers play the Packers, that we shouldn't be favored? We have a sick front seven. Like that's what
I think
won
y'all
the
would be favored.
49ers. The 49ers blew out the Packers twice because of their nasty pass rush. They would rush 4 or 5 and get home. They didn't need insane coverage on the back end. I think that if right now the Steelers played the Packers, I mean, I'm taking the Steelers. It'd probably be a 3 or 4 point spread, and I'd hammer the Steelers because I think a similar thing would happen. I think our pass rush would be able to get home if we just rush 5 every play, one-on-one rushing, our sick pass rushers against their blockers, against their offensive line, that we would just win consistently enough to comfortably win that football game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, just like power rankings, I would probably put Saints at 3. And now it kind of sucks that Drew Brees is out, but not really,
He'll be back for the
Um,
playoffs.
if they make the playoffs, um,
You guys still
I'm
got
just
faith in the
saying
Falcons taking the division?
they got to play the Falcons twice. I'm just saying anything could happen. Jameis goes out there and let's see if this LASIK eye surgery like really pays off for him.
Well, the
But
Falcons under Morris have only lost 1 game, right? And that was a game they should have won.
yeah, because of Todd Gurley.
Like, dude, Raheem Morris is legit. He is legit. He needs to, I'm really hoping he's the coach of the Falcons next year.
I think there's a good chance that he will be. It really depends on who they hire as a GM. If they want to, like, does he want to construct the way like he sees it? Like, there's this new regiment, but like, I think Raheem Morris be like, I think if you gave him like another year, like prove it deal, like show me something this year, like
Our impromptu
then
segment.
I'd
Let's
be
talk
down for
about
that.
Raheem Morris. As a Falcons fan, what is the difference that you've seen on the field with Raheem Morris as the head coach compared to Dan Quinn? If you can name something.
Um, yeah, keep it this simple. A lot of less points allowed, more points scored.
Classic formula to win. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't been able to watch a ton of Falcons games. I did that big Falcons analysis earlier in the season when I took them week 1 against the Seahawks, which they got pasted. But listen, you win some, you lose some. One thing I do see from this Falcons team is that they are changing up their coverages a lot more. That's something that I saw when Raheem Morris took over last season, but now that he's the guy calling the shots, I mean, you're obviously seeing a lot more Tampa 2. Surprise, surprise, that's the defense that he was under when he was with the Bucs, that Tampa 2 defense that won them a Super Bowl with John Gruden. And, Tony Dungy had a lot of success there. So, you're seeing a lot more of that.
Also, you
The
just
other thing,
like
too, is
you're
this.
seeing. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say in general, I think that you're seeing a lot more consistency out of their secondary that you saw
Yeah,
early in the season.
that's what I was going to touch on. I think you see AJ Terrell why he was picked in the first round. It seems like he's playing better. Keanu Neal, ever since Dan Quinn was fired, it's not like Keanu Neal of his first 2 years of he's still missing kind of a step because like it's granted like he could probably barely walk. I don't know how he still has legs after all his injuries, but I Keanu Neal is playing like a very good safety right now. Ricardo's always been pretty smart. Isaiah Oliver still stinks, but he's on the field a lot less because now Sheffield's back. And then we got Denard back, and then the focal point of the defense is Grady Jarrett, and Grady Jarrett's
100%.
having an insane season. He's having an insane season, probably his best season in his career, and no one's talking about it because, I mean, when you're 3-6 and you give up almost 30 points a game, no one's going to really talk about your defense. So,
Yeah,
and then you got
unless it's in a negative light.
also the linebacker play has been very, very, especially now, has played very well. Deion Jones, you already know who he is, but Fusadi has played extremely well this season. He's made some plays. He got defensive player of the week against the Bronco from the NFC.
Oh, no way. One thing
Yeah,
I will
crazy.
say, just theoretically speaking, is that in that Tampa 2 defense, you need a linebacker like Deion Jones who can cover a lot of ground because you're asking your linebacker to, if someone in the middle of the field isn't carrying deep to be able to play in the middle of the field. But then also if there's like a slot receiver that runs like a seam or something, a deep route over the middle, you have to have a linebacker good enough to run with them. And Deion Jones fits that mold. He's an extremely talented pass coverage linebacker. He's super fast. He's super physical. And I know we'll touch a little bit more on Deion Jones when we get to the picks, because I have a feeling I know who you're picking this week.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, instead of talking about the Falcons, we'll save that for a little bit later. I want to beg the question. So, beginning of the season, everyone at first was saying, "Oh my God, look at Joe Burrow, he's super good." I agree. Then, when the doctor punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung and Justin Herbert got his chance to shine, Justin Herbert is looking like the offensive rookie of the year right now. And now everyone's saying, "Oh, Herbert, look at him, look at him, look at him." Well, now we get to see Tua Tagovailoa. And unlike Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa may not have the stats, but he's got the dubs. And I kind of want to beg the question, especially from like a fantasy football perspective, is Tua being underrated? Because I think right now, if you ask most people, they would have Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert ahead of Tua. But have you seen enough out of Tua to put him, in your eyes at least, ahead of one of these other guys?
For me, unless he played 4 games. Yeah, he's got the dubs, and dude, like I'm a huge Tua guy too. I like Tua. I can't put him ahead of them. I think it's still early. I mean, dude, Joe Burrow's on pace to put up over 4,500 yards. Joe Burrow's top 5 in passing yards this season as a rookie.
He's insane.
And,
With a terrible offensive line too.
Now, I don't think Tua is doing that as much as Joe Burrow, just because, I think you're on 2 completely different vibes of teams here. Dolphins are going to be up a lot more, and they're going to be in ball games where they can kind of be more balanced and have different approaches, and maybe it's just different scheme fit. But, the Bengals are going to be down a lot. Like, Joe Burrow's going to have to throw 50 times a game just to keep them in it. So, just based off number-wise, yeah, Joe Burrow, Herbert are going to be the favorites there, and I don't think Tua has enough games left to really get him back in that conversation. But the one thing that Tua can do that is better than winning Rookie of the Year, because trust me, I'm sure it is getting to the playoffs and being competitive in the playoffs, which the Dolphins can easily do.
This isn't going to sound like a surprise to people, but Tua's a winner. And the thing about
he's
Tua,
lost 1 game in his life.
But this is the thing that I love about Tua. And this is the thing, when I initially did my Tua analysis, this wasn't when the podcast was going on. I was not a big Tua guy, but then I went back and I looked at Tua and I saw a lot of things I didn't see at first. A lot of the nuances. Tua is like the quarterback of nuance. He does all the small things right. And the thing is that he's not as flashy as Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. But goddamn, he is the most, of all these rookie quarterbacks I've seen, I think he is the most ready to play this season. The guy is just crazy. He's so smart, and he makes plays when he needs to. He doesn't force throws. He looks like a veteran. He legitimately looks like a vet playing at quarterback, which I think that people aren't taking enough into consideration. And I truly believe, as a competitive football team, not for long term, maybe, I don't really know, because it's a tough decision. But for this season, I would rather have Tua over Herbert and Burrow. And I don't think it's very close. The guy has shown so much on tape. He is so poised. He's the kind of guy that just has ice in his veins. He hasn't been asked to do this yet. He hasn't been asked to really lead a team from behind, or you're relying on him. The Dolphins defense is making plays, don't get me wrong, but it's even in a couple of games, I can just see oh my God, I would trust him with the football. And not only that, like with a few more games under his belt, I'd almost trust him to start calling plays. The guy just
Oh,
feels
yeah,
and
dude.
looks like a veteran quarterback, which I'm getting that feeling way more than someone like Herbert or Burrow. Like Herbert and Burrow, you see rookie mistakes all the time. Tua Tagovailoa, you'd really have to like really scrap around his tape that he's played this season to find rookie mistakes. The guy is just
Yeah.
really good. Like, at first we all questioned whether or not the Dolphin staff made the right decision of sitting Ryan Fitzpatrick. Guess what? Brian Flores knows what the fuck he's doing because Tua
Yeah,
looks
I did.
incredible.
It, Listen, they don't win all these games with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I understand they were having a little bit of success with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they're kind of hitting that stride. But it's like we said a couple episodes ago, Tua can just elevate your team to a different kind of level, and you're seeing it here. Now, if I was a Dolphins fan, this is what I'm thinking: is that well, if he was playing like this, where he looks totally ready to go and be an NFL starter, we could have played them a lot earlier in the season and probably be winning the damn division. You know,
I
they
mean,
could
dude,
easily with two in there.
what about that Seahawks game? I mean, I know we always bring up
Yeah,
the
that's the
Seahawks
first
game
one
like
that popped
every
in my mind.
podcast.
They could have easily won that game. Easily
One
won that game.
touchdown, they win that game.
Yeah, I mean there
They
was
had
so
five
many.
possessions inside of Seattle's territory. One touchdown. You think, like, honestly, like, you think Tua gives him a touchdown that game? A touchdown
I
difference
think
over
it gives them
Fitzmagic?
two. I think it gives them two.
Against a historically bad Seahawks passing offense or
With
passing
the
defense?
worst passing defense I've ever seen in my life. Yeah,
That's a
yeah, I
lot
think he
coming from
gets
a
it done.
Falcons fan this season, too. I'm
Wait a minute,
sorry.
they got a worse passing defense than ours, dude.
I'm
Chill
sorry.
out. Chill out on Isaiah Oliver and AJ Terrell and that unit, dude. That unit's just
Bleedy
shut
Ray
down.
Wilson.
Hey, he'll come in there and make a play. That's the type of guy on your bottom of the roster you want. You want Bleedy in there, knocking heads.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, dude, that brings up the question: Should I think Tua should have started from day one? Really? Like, I mean,
I
what
don't
was
think he
he
should have
missing that?
started day one.
But you're over here saying that he's just playing so much more smarter than
Yeah, but the thing is, you never
Burrow, not
really
making that
know
many
until he steps on
mistakes.
the field, and you got to remember, there's no preseason, there was no real training camp. I
I
think that,
forgot about COVID. I forgot about
well, yeah,
COVID.
just
Why
because
I
of this
have
season,
COVID?
I don't think you could have.
How about
I
that,
think
dude?
maybe
That's
with everything before, like if it was a normal season, maybe I'll give you that. But that's just my big, like the big caveat is the whole
oh,
COVID season.
good question right here is, we're talking about these three rookie quarterbacks. What about Jordan Love? He's really impressed me this year. You
Mm,
know, he's really impressed me.
I'll tell you what, he fills up those little water cups, those little Gatorade cups, way faster than any backup quarterback I've seen in my entire life.
He's not on the roster, is he? Like,
Yeah, I don't think he's been active. Don't ask me
wow, the
what's going
Packers
on because
really.
I don't know.
They
I can
probably
tell you
watched him
this
throw in
much.
practice. It was like, oof.
Um,
They probably watched him practice. It was like, yeah, we got to stop watching all these Sports Center shows and them telling us how he's the next Patrick Mahomes because he clearly isn't the next Patrick Mahomes or something like that.
Wait,
And
I
then
can
they
tell you.
hit another.
I can agree with the Packers fans that maybe you should have taken a receiver, considering that like all of this receivers taken around Jordan Love are like really good right now. They're showing a lot of promise. I mean,
I
aside
could have took
from
Ayuk.
Michael Pittman and Jalen Rager, who have both had injury issues, might I add, which has been a big reason that you haven't seen a ton of production. And Michael Pittman just had a big game on, last Thursday night against the Titans. Ayuk has looked sick. Justin Jefferson has looked like one of the best rookie receivers in history with the kind of numbers that he's putting up. T. Higgins is looking like, legit for that Bengals offense. I can agree
Mhm.
with the whole why the F did we take a quarterback um when we could have had a receiver.
I agree with it too. Well, they even take a receiver the whole draft. Next round, they went A.J. Dillon, and
Yeah, he hasn't
where's
played
A.J. Dillon?
either.
Like, does LaFleur just draft people? He's like, all right, listen, man, you're never going to play for this team, but I
He's got
got
him
you
on the
your
taxi
bag.
squad.
Yeah, like, it makes no sense. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing
For
over
those of
there.
you who don't know what a taxi squad is, in Dynasty Fantasy Football, in Fantasy Football where you get to keep the players you draft, a lot of leagues have a taxi squad, which is basically where you can stash rookies not having to use up a roster spot. So there's where the joke comes in, is that, there obviously are no taxi squads in the NFL, but it feels like for the Packers, they might be using one because they're not using any of the rookies, like, at all. 0%. They've barely played for the guys that they drafted with their first and second round pick. And they got
There's
a
a taxi.
lot of crap for drafting both of those players because
Mm-hmm.
running back and quarterback were two positions it seemed like, and I agree
They
with, the
had pretty
Packers
late.
kind of had filled.
Yeah, they should have felt good about those two positions, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones.
Maybe they just weren't good enough. Maybe Aaron Rodgers just isn't the guy.
I don't know.
But yeah, I want to go into, let's go into a new segment here. Let me just get this set up real quick. Bang time. The second analysis I did for this episode, which I was kind of excited about because I'm analyzing the Ravens, and this is a team that the Steelers have to play twice a year. They may have to play them 3 times this year. And I wanted to figure out what is going on with the Ravens offense. Not too long ago on the Rich Eisen show, I believe it was, I'm like 99% sure, Rich Eisen interviewed Lamar Jackson, and in that interview, Lamar Jackson was saying, our play calling kind of sucks. Defenses know what we're doing. They're calling out our plays while we're doing them. And, I wanted to see, is there any merit to that? And the first thing that I saw, like, because, I watch a lot of Ravens games. The first thing that I saw the Ravens differ at from last year is their deep passing attack. Their deep passing attack is a fraction of how good it was last year. And part of that is on Lamar Jackson. So here is one of the early plays in this Ravens Patriots game. And you're going to see Lamar Jackson just miss Hollywood Brown deep here. It's not wide open, don't get me wrong, and he ends up checking it down to Ingram for a good play. But you can see Hollywood Brown is calling for the ball, and for good merit. Like, he is the fastest guy on this football field, and he is even with these defenders. If Lamar Jackson just unloads this football as far as he can, there's a good chance this is a touchdown. If he just unloads it down the field. And it's not just this play. There's another play in this game where, it's not a deep ball for a touchdown that Lamar Jackson misses, but there's an open play. He's got this deep dig over here. He's got it open. And as an NFL quarterback, especially one that's an MVP, you're supposed to have the anticipation to hit this guy in stride. It's not supposed to be, I see him open and I throw it. It's supposed to be, okay, I see this linebacker, he's moving forward so that he has no leverage going backwards. And the dig is open. He's 7 yards away from this play. This is a big first down. It's 2nd and 10. This is a big first down for the Ravens. And the ball's batted at the line of scrimmage, mainly because Lamar Jackson just sees it late. I believe that he's trying to throw this dig, but he's just throwing it late. He's either throwing it to the dig or the check down. It's hard to tell. But, I mean, this has been a problem with the Ravens passing attack. In the past couple of weeks, they just haven't had the success on plays deep down the field. Now, the other thing I will say is that Lamar Jackson actually has a point. Greg Roman has been doing a pretty dog shit job of calling plays because they are so predictable. And one of the biggest problems I have is with a lot of these outside receivers. They're running anytime you see an outside receiver, 65 to 70% of the time, they'll be running just a deep concept, probably even more, like 80%. And then of that 80%, half the time it's just a go route. So you see time and time again, the Patriots just have a corner in a deep third or in man coverage, just playing way off. And yeah, this player may not be terribly involved in the play, but he's not doing anything. Lamar, this is just a waste of a player in the NFL. It's just a player not doing anything. And not only that, this sets a precedent for the corners of this team. So when these corners know that these outside receivers are running deep, and you're Bill Belichick, and you have a corner, you say, J.C. Jackson, why don't you go press coverage on Hollywood Brown? What do you think he's doing? You think he's going to take the bait and fall for an underneath receiver? No, he's going to bomb the hell back because he knows that Lamar Jackson is going to throw this ball deep. I'll give credit to Bill Belichick because this is a really good job from him. This is at the end of the half in the Ravens game. Anytime that Lamar Jackson, this Raven offense, sees that they have Marquise Hollywood Brown one-on-one in pass coverage, they generally throw him the ball. And they throw the ball to him deep. And J.C. Jackson and the Patriots know this. He tries to do this little hesitation right here. It's kind of subtle, so I'll slow it down. He tries to do this little hesitation right there. J.C. Jackson does not bite at all, and it leads to an interception and 3 points off the board for the Ravens. That's just bad design from this offense. Whether that's Greg Roman's fault or Lamar Jackson's fault, they took the bait. This is exactly what Bill Belichick wanted them to throw the ball to. He's on the sideline probably smirking, rubbing his hands together because, this is a free play for the Patriots. They just get the ball. They took 3 points off the board. I mean, granted, he's the GOAT coach, so he's going to do stuff like this, but my God, and it's just over and over and over this kind of stuff. And it leads into more than just that, into more than just the Ravens taking the bait. It goes into they try to run a little double move here with Hollywood Brown on the outside, and these corners aren't going to bite. These corners. Okay, yeah, McCourty bites a smidge, but he's in good enough position to where Lamar Jackson throws his ball. He's got nothing. He's got to throw the ball out of bounds to complete this pass, which, I'll have to give credit to Lamar Jackson. This is bad design from this offense. And, my whole thing is that when you're seeing these 3 deep coverages all the time, you got the safety back here and these corners consistently 10 yards off the ball, one has to ask why they are not working the sideline more often. Here's one of the few plays the Ravens work the sideline, and they get a big first down. This is 3rd down and long. The Patriots think they came up with an interception. It was ruled a completion for Mark Andrews in the game, and a big first down. This is a great matchup for the Ravens, and I'm not sure why they are not taking advantage of the sideline more often in this offense. And just to show you statistically what I'm talking about, time. Ooh. Just look at their intermediate and deep passing numbers. You can see here's 2019 for deep passing up right here where my cursor is in the middle. And then here's where their deep passing is. In 2019, their deep passes were attempted 43% of the time in the middle, with 30% on the left and 26% on the right. You can see the dramatic difference because in 2020, their deep passing, 57% of their deep passes are in the middle of the field, where 18% is on the left and 25% is on the right. And then we go to their middle of the field passing, intermediate passing. Their middle of the field from 2019, 58%. On the right, 31, left, 12, has gone up to 61%. And I truly believe that this is a big problem for the Ravens because not only are they failing to to move the ball with their deep passing because their deep passing in general. I'll bring this graphic back up. We just look at their quarterback rating from their deep passing in general. We have quarterback rating 108 in 2020, gone down to 62, or 108 in 2019, gone down to 62 in 2020. Same thing with their intermediate, 137 in 2019, down to 100 in 2020. And not only that, teams are playing to take away the middle of this defense, and the Ravens are refusing to change. Here's the interception by Robert Spillane for a touchdown against the Ravens in Week 8 for the Steelers. So what they're going to do is they're going to rush this linebacker here and have Bud Dupree back out. And what the Ravens are going to do, they're going to have both of their slot receivers run a little mesh concept with their tight end running a dig. And then obviously both of their receivers running go routes because that's what they do 60% of the time. And you can see here, just by the numbers game, there are 4 guys covering these 3 guys. And it leads to an interception. As a Steelers fan, I can tell you teams have torched us hitting throws outside the numbers. And on this play here, the Steelers, look it up here. There is so much space outside the numbers on the sideline that they could be throwing the ball. But they're so busy trying to work the middle of the field for Lamar Jackson. He's an NFL quarterback. I know people try to crap on Lamar Jackson's throw, but he can make, a 7-yard out on the sideline. And it's just, as a Ravens fan, this is infuriating. The fact that they are just not using their weapons on the outside. Well, look at all this space over here. Look at all this space past the sticks. This should be an easy first down. The fact that I'm a casual fan and I'm telling you, we should be hitting the outside on the Steelers. What the fuck are they doing in their meeting rooms? The Ravens are acting like they control the tempo. They control what's going on. They can just run the concepts that they think they're good at, and they don't have to game plan, it seems like. You need, against this Steelers defense, a top-tier defense in the NFL, you need to hit the sidelines. Look at if you're not going to, teams are just going to stay in this 3-deep coverage and live with one-on-one on the outside. That's what the Patriots did to shut them down. That's what the Steelers did to shut them down. And it just must be so infuriating as a Ravens fan. And I can completely see where Lamar Jackson is coming from, and that the play calling isn't just bad. The defenses know what's going on. The play calling is dog shit. It's honestly terrible. The fact that they have a talented offense and they score a lot of points from just dink-dunking the ball, running the ball down people's throats. The fact that you have such a good running game and such a good short passing game, but you can't make teams pay by stretching the field is honestly mind-boggling. They haven't done it really since early in the season. And the other thing with the Ravens offense that I have is that teams, I think, have figured out after this Steelers game a formula for how to not stop Lamar Jackson completely, but to mitigate Lamar Jackson's rushing impact on the game. His scrambling, the design quarterback runs, and here's how they do it. So the first thing that I've been seeing is that their interior linemen, sometimes they'll get upfield. Other times they'll just, almost attack it like they're attacking a run. Just go 2 yards up the field and then, control their line and make sure that the running back can't get in the gap. But they're almost baiting Lamar Jackson to escape the pocket vertically. Because what they're doing is when Lamar Jackson escapes this pocket vertically, these guys just instantly, once they see that, they collapse. These little A gaps. They want Lamar Jackson to go here because they'll go up the field, but then roll off and have an easy tackle on Lamar Jackson. They won't let Lamar Jackson make a difference in space. And doing this, they don't have to have a linebacker spying on him. The other thing is that teams are zoning the Ravens all the time now. You will rarely see a team play consistent man coverage against this Ravens team because of this. So they're going to have this play where Lamar Jackson rolls out to the left. They're trying to hit Willie Snead in the flat here. It's not there. And teams are just zoning the Ravens. So what this does is it's making Lamar Jackson think a little bit. He's holding on to the football. When you play man coverage, Lamar Jackson, there were times last year, okay, you're playing man coverage. He'd take one step back, see that the entire field clears up, and just say, oh, screw it, I'm running the ball. There's no one here. There's a linebacker spying me. Good luck. It's me, Lamar Jackson, MVP, Heisman Trophy winner, against some random linebacker. I'm winning that 10 times out of 10, and you saw it last year. He won an MVP doing that. But now, when you have a team zoning him, you see he's thinking a lot. And then while he's thinking, you have the entire defense flow towards Lamar Jackson. So where is he going to go? He can't go this way. There's 4 Steelers over here. Oh, you want to cut it back? Well, TJ Watt, Stephon Tuitt, there's a whole lot of Steelers guarding the cutback lanes as well. So go ahead, try to run the ball. We'll eat it up all day. And then, the last thing is that when the Ravens are trying to run these zone reads where they're just reading a defender, I'm pretty sure they're reading Bud Dupree here. Then maybe TJ Watt. I can't remember. Let's see. Yeah, they're reading TJ Watt. Teams are no longer letting Lamar Jackson ever have the ball in these zone reads. They're committing to him every time. They're not letting Lamar Jackson make his plays in the running game. And this is why, so you look at last season, 2019, Lamar Jackson, he averaged 6.9 yards per carry. Through the first 6 games, he also averaged 6.9 yards per carry. But including that Steelers game and beyond the Steelers game, the past 3 weeks of the season, he's averaged 4.45 yards per carry. The jig may be up a little bit. And teams are not letting Lamar Jackson make an impact running the football. So that means that this team needs to be able to attack teams deep. The Ravens right now are letting teams just go one-on-one on the outside with the Ravens. And I think a large part of that is because they're not attacking outside of the numbers effectively and just enough. They're not throwing enough outside the numbers to receivers. They're just asking Hollywood Brown to purely be a deep threat. You need to have him attack outside the numbers. Teams are just going cover 3 constantly. 3 high players with a one-on-one deep. Just attack outside the numbers. Force teams to put more resources attacking Duvernay, Boykin, and Hollywood Brown underneath, outside the numbers, 8 to 10 to 15 yards. It's just so ridiculous, the fact that the Ravens think that they can just do the same cookie cutter game plan that worked for them last year and worked for them earlier in the season this year and think that they're going to beat well-coached teams like the Steelers. It's not going to happen. And the Steelers, yeah, they didn't shut the Ravens down. The Ravens still had success. But when you have the talent the Ravens do, they were averaging 33 points a game last year. I'm not even sure they've reached 33 points at all this year. And I think that Lamar Jackson has a point. The Ravens staff, especially Greg Roman, you need to do your part for this team and start calling better games and coming up with better game plans, because right now it's not enough. And I can completely see what Lamar Jackson is saying. This offense is too predictable. It's too cookie cutter, and teams are taking advantage of them. And if they don't change this, this team is not going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, completely agree. It's the adjustments. And you see the success they had last year on offense, and you read off the stats, and you see now this season has just not carried over. And that's because teams have made adjustments on them. They haven't made the right adjustments on that back yet. Or why it be, I don't know.
They're treating this like this is college, dude. It's like, okay, we're Alabama. We're more talented. We can just attack the middle of the field. We don't have to do all this stuff. Like, It's not that they don't attack the sides of the field, I'm saying. It's just if you want to run these double moves and have Hollywood Brown on the outside be a threat deep, you need to make defenses commit to it. Defenses right now don't have to commit to it. They can always stay over top of Hollywood Brown, and they're not making teams pay for doing that. If you have a corner that is always over the top of a receiver, what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to make him pay underneath. Like, the fact that the Ravens aren't doing that is ridiculous. And they're just thinking, okay, Lamar Jackson, if our plays don't work, just save us. Like, that doesn't fly in the NFL. And if I'm Lamar Jackson, I would be fucking pissed because this game planning is terrible. And this is a Ravens team under John Harbaugh that has been incredibly well coached usually. And this is not like them. It's not like them to just lose games schematic. This Ravens offense they ran for over 200 rushing yards against the Steelers. They should win that game 10 times out of 10. That is ridiculous that they do not win that football game. It's honestly absurd, and it is 100% on their coaching staff the reason they did not win that football game. Lamar Jackson and their running game did all they could. They did more than enough to win that football game. And I'm a Steelers fan saying this. That is absurd. They should never lose that football game, and it is 100% on their coaching staff for not putting their players in a position to win.
I completely agree with you. And until they make those right adjustments, like they could probably still make the playoffs now, like regardless if they made the adjustments or not. But you're not going to go no farther than the first or second round of the playoffs if you just don't figure out some way the offense, because like last year it seemed like they got into that steamroll where it was just every drive, bang, touchdown, 8-minute drive, touchdown, control the ball, boom. Like the ball game's over in the first quarter when they're up 14-0. You've had the ball once.
Yeah.
Now that their scheme has been kind of figured out and teams are having success on it, it's up to the coaching staff to make the right adjustment and play call to get this team back to what it is. Because, like you said, this is a very talented offense. This is a very talented team. A lot of people were saying when this team came in, it was the most complete team. And
Colin Cowherd predicted them to go undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, Calter went undefeated. Didn't see it. It's very hard to go undefeated. Like, very hard. Seen it once. And it's just it doesn't feel like that same Ravens
no,
team.
not at
It just
all.
feels like a very choppy team. And it's like
They have
they're
had
good enough to
injuries
win
too,
some
though.
games. They're good enough to win 10 or 11 games, but they should be winning a lot more games like that because of look at the players on their depth chart.
The
And
other
I
problem
say
I
that
have with the
comes with the
Ravens
coaching.
coaching staff is that you look at there's a stat, I forget exactly the stat. It's either in their last 20 to 22 games. This is a week or two ago. I think they have won a game when they were losing at halftime since I saw this stat. But basically, it went along the lines of in the past 20 to 22 games where the Ravens were losing at halftime, they have barely ever won. And that is unacceptable when you're a team trying to compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, I always point to this example, but look at the Chiefs last year. This is a team that, for as good as they were, had to make adjustments in every playoff game to end up winning. And no matter how good you are, you look at that Titans-Ravens playoff game last year, that was a Ravens team that was unable to overcome adversity and adjust to what the Titans were doing, and they got smacked. Is that just going to be the same story for the Ravens this year? Anytime that a team is able to compete with them up until halftime, the Ravens just fold over and lose? I hope not, because I like John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach, but what about the other guys on that staff? Maybe this is getting into the players. I honestly believe that the Ravens players have a point in that this coaching staff is not doing enough to set them up for success. So I think that this is something to really look out for. And if teams have figured out the Ravens, this is going to be interesting to see. I don't think they have. I think that the Ravens will be able to overcome what teams are doing to stop Lamar Jackson running the ball, especially by attacking outside the numbers. We should hopefully see that against the Titans this weekend, because this is a Titans team that has struggled to cover players. Their cornerback play has been extremely inconsistent. They haven't had a pass rush. So the Ravens should be able to have a good offensive game this week. All right, but enough of the Ravens. Enough of the Ravens. Let's transition into everyone's favorite segment, hopefully. Picks of the week. The picks of the week, week 11. Me and you, we both had pretty good weeks last week. I believe I went 5-2. Don't quote me on that. We also both hit on our dogs of the week for the second straight week. Let's ride.
Good one. Let's go, dogs.
It's dog season.
The dog runners.
It's dog season. You want to start off with your dog of the week?
Yeah, I'll start off with my dog of the week, since this team is very special to me. But I'm taking Falcons spread and money line. You get great value right here, plus 200 on the money line for the Falcons, a team that has been playing astronomically better since Raheem Morris has been been promoted to head coaching. And they're coming off a bye. And big news for the Saints is that Drew Brees is out. And even though I love Jameis, everybody loves Jameis. You know, you like the bet here because Drew Brees is not playing, and you got to trust Jameis Winston in this offense. We really haven't seen Jameis. And also, this last time the Falcons played in New Orleans, they played pretty well by my memory, but last year really beat the crap out of the Saints. It took them all surprise when we came off a bye. So I'm kind of expecting the same thing here. I'm actually expecting a Falcons win very handily here. I'm thinking 14, 17 points.
No way.
First of all, it doesn't matter if this Falcons team is 0-9 or 9-0. You know, it's Falcons Saints. The players are going to get up for this game. This is marked on their calendar every year. I like a very comfortable win here for the Falcons. Easy money. And dog of the week continues to be a winner.
Yeah, I'm taking the Falcons spread. There are a couple things that I like about the Falcons. Obviously, what you mentioned is that the Falcons play well against the Saints generally. Like we mentioned earlier in the episode, Deion Jones shows up for these Falcons Saints games. And of all linebackers in the NFL, he has been the one to really consistently play well against Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a player that he does work against every team in the NFL, it seems like, aside from the Falcons. The Falcons have found a way to mitigate Alvin Kamara's impact on a lot of these games. He's not going for like 150 all-purpose yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns like he is a lot of the other matchups. Like you said, now that the Saints do not have Drew Brees at +5, that seems like great value to me. Plus 200 on the money line. It just, in general, it feels like that people are forgetting that the Falcons under Raheem Morris have only lost one game, which is a game they should have won if Todd Gurley just goes down. It's a divisional game, so these two teams know each other a lot. The other thing, too, is that the Falcons are getting healthy. Calvin Ridley is going to be playing this week, probably. He's been a player that hasn't been healthy the past couple of weeks. So I think there are a lot of arrows pointing to the Falcons here that it just seems like the public really isn't taking into consideration. So I will be joining you on the Falcons spread. But my dog...
Oh, you got to remember this. Hold on. The Falcons are officially in the hunt now after those 2 straight wins.
Nice, dude. In the hunt, baby. That's what you like to see. But I'll get into my dog of the week here. My dog of the week this week, like I said earlier in the episode, is going to be the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles against the Cleveland Browns. First thing is that I think that people are taking into consideration the loss after a bye week too much. They have not won after a bye week in the past 3 seasons now because they lost last week. The other thing that I like about the Eagles is that they are 12-8-1 after a loss money line. They're playing. It's a tough road game. The Eagles, generally speaking, aren't the best road team, but I really believe that since this week it feels like a must win for the Eagles now that the division race is really close after a loss to the Giants. I think the Browns are also getting a little bit too much credit. A lot of, two of their recent wins have been really poor weather games that I think the Browns are more suited to. But this is also an Eagles team that is suited to poor weather games. Carson Wentz is a quarterback that can really rip the ball through some wind. It's probably going to be raining on the forecast. I checked, but there's not going to be huge winds. And the other thing is that the Eagles have a pretty decent front seven. I know the Giants exposed them a little bit unexpectedly, but I expect the Eagles to bounce back and win this game against the Cleveland Browns. I think people are giving a little bit too much credit to.
Like that. I as well took the Eagles +3 in one of my picks. My next pick, I got I think my new favorite team in the NFL, and probably a lot of new people's new favorite team, but the Dolphins -3 against Broncos.
Yeah,
You
I'll be
know, and
joining you there.
Broncos can be kind of scary at times, but I feel like the way the Dolphins defense has been playing, they're creating these turnovers, scoring points off turnovers. Drew Luck's always due for a couple bonehead mistakes that will lead to a turnover. Dolphins stay hot here, -3. Don't overthink it. This is probably my lock of the week, I think. I think this hits by a country mile as well.
Yeah, this was definitely, when I was looking at the picks this week, one of the most surprising picks I saw. I don't know why the Dolphins aren't -5 this week.
Yeah.
Maybe Vegas or the Sharps know something we don't. I'm going to be taking a teaser. Teasers are hot again. I'm going to be taking. I want to take the Cardinals, but I know the Cardinals are playing on Thursday night, so the episode's probably not going to come out before that. I'll be taking the Chiefs then, -1.5 against our. I hate that, and then the Packers +8, 6-point teaser. I'll be taking that one.
Okay. Next pick for me, I got this. Yeah, I like this game as well. Patriots -1.5 against the Texans. You know,
Yeah, I'll be following you on that.
I think this line is just very small. Patriots coming off a very good win against the Ravens. They got a little steam going now. They're in the hunt as well. This Texans team, as we talked about earlier, their only two wins were against the Jags, and we all know the Jags are one of the worst teams in the NFL. So Patriots -1.5. I think the line is just too small, so I'm easily taking this one.
Yeah, I have the Pats -2. I'm with you. I think that the Patriots have really entered their playoff form. They found a winning formula playing ground and pound football, and the Houston Texans run defense, I don't think, just in general, their front seven isn't good enough to match the physicality of the Patriots. The Patriots O-line has been probably one of the most underrated groups up until this part in the season. They've done a really good job, especially on their interior double teams. And I think that that's going to continue against a really poor Texans defense. I think that Texans defense, aside from J.J. Watt saving them every once in a while, I think they suck. With a capital S.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Oh, they're terrible. I'm going to be taking the Packers +2 here against the Colts.
Okay.
This is a tough game just because I think it's a really even game. I'm going to be taking the points here because, to be completely honest, I think that this should be a pick'em spread. So I feel like I'm getting 2 free points. I do really like the Colts, and I see why they're a favorite. A lot of people I saw on Reddit and on Twitter were saying, "Oh, dude, Packers +2 lock." Don't think they're a lock. Definitely not, especially if we see a Colts team that gets some turnovers. But the fact that I'm getting 2 points here, I took them +3, but it moved to +2. So I really liked them at a field goal. But since I get them +2, I'll take any free points I get in that kind of matchup.
Yeah, so this is one of our classic matches where we go against each other because I'm taking Colts -2.
I think I've lost
Is
every one of these, but by the way, that me and Steve have gone against each other. I think I've lost every single one. So just
I
take that
know I've been
into
on a decent.
consideration.
I know I've been on a decent good streak because mainly I was just betting on the
Yeah,
Dolphins,
the
but
Finns.
yeah,
You've
I
killed
think
me with the Finns.
I know I beat you last week with the Rams and the Seahawks. But yeah, I'm just taking the Colts -2. I do what I saw on Thursday night with the Colts. I really like. I think it is at home for the Colts. I think this is when the fraud Packers come into play here to me. And even though I don't really trust Phillip Rivers too much, I still think they can make a couple plays, and it's going to be a tight ball game. This is a very interesting ball game, and I'll be watching this one. But I like the Colts to come out on top. Probably win by a field goal.
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking the Panthers -1.5. This is assuming Teddy Bridgewater plays. I personally am going to wait until I see more injury reports with Teddy Bridgewater because if Teddy Bridgewater does not play, I am running away from this and probably hammering the Lions because I have not liked what I've seen out of PJ Walker. But if I get Teddy Bridgewater playing with the Panthers -1.5 against the Lions team that I honestly don't know what the hell I'm going to get out of. I like it. I think the Panthers, once again, I'm a believer in the Panthers defense. I think that they are now, especially because beforehand, early in the season, I was thinking the Giants defense was the most underrated group in the league, but they've been getting some credit. I think the Panthers have one of the more underrated defenses in the league. So I'll be taking the Panthers -1.5 as long as Teddy Bridgewater is playing.
Okay, for my next pick, I got the Bengals +1. I got the Bengals +1. I think Joe Burrow gets it done this week. I know weak O line, beastie line for the Washington football team. No, I don't want to hear that talk. Joe Burrow's going into Washington winning this ball game because he is better than Kyle Allen. He is better than Alex Smith. He's better. Who else? The 5,000 quarterbacks they played this season. So I'm taking the Bengals.
Yeah, my last pick, which is kind of a suit because I don't know what the hell is going to happen with the line with the new news, but I had the Chiefs -6.5. I think the line has changed already, so you might as well scrap that off the card. You know what? Screw it. I'll change it. I'll tell you on the Bengals because that was a pick that I was thinking about picking. I had them +1.5, but I'll take them +1. I think you're right. I think the Bengals win this week. This is a Washington football team, literally, that has really only had success in their division. Um, and vice versa for the Bengals. The Bengals really have only struggled in the division. So I think
Yeah.
that the Bengals are going to be able to get it done. While the Bengals have had some offensive line issues, it's really only been towards some of the top tier D lines they've had to play. You think of the Steelers. Do I really have to go into it? Same thing with the Ravens. Do I really have to go into it? And then with the Browns, two matchups, they've had to go up against an underrated Browns front seven led by a defensive player of the year caliber Myles Garrett. So while the Redskins do have a good front seven, the Lions, I think, exposed that defense a little bit. And I think that the Bengals are going to be able to take advantage.
Like it. All right, my last pick. This is a blind pick. I don't really have any stats behind it. I saw the line. I took it. Sometimes you see the board, you got to take it. Monday Night Football, Rams, Bucks, over 48.5 points.
I was thinking
I
about
don't
that
know why.
actually.
I
I'm just
like
not a
it.
big over under guy.
I just like it. Yeah, I'm not either. Like, I wanted one more pick just to do, and I was like thinking I'll just take Monday night. So, like, I don't know, like, I have more time to think about it, but, like, I kinda just like 48.5 here, I feel like
It's
this
just
is a kinda lineup.
the fact you get it under 50 feels really appealing for that. That just seems like a kind
I
of game that would be over 50 points.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I feel like one of these teams is gonna put up 28, 50, 30 points. Like, the Buccaneers offense, regardless, like, besides the Saints game, I mean, you just saw against the Panthers, and they put up a some good amount of points before, and Rams are always due to put up 30 something points. So maybe they can make something happen this week, have a little bit of shootout. Probably not the Chiefs Rams shootout we saw a couple years ago on Monday Night Football, but hopefully some kind of shootout.
One of the things that I think that people are taking account into that line, which I don't think will make as much of a difference as Vegas does, is that they're thinking, okay, this Rams pass defense has been really good recently. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey can shut down a number one receiver, and Aaron Donald's going to be a beast. The one thing that we've seen consistently, though, is that teams with those one player make a difference pass rushers have struggled against Tom Brady. Tom Brady is
Mhm.
able to, his pocket movement and his feel is so good that not that he completely negates, but he does negate a lot of the impact compared to other quarterbacks that those one man pass rushers have. So I'm going to be interested to see how the Rams are able to handle a quarterback like Tom Brady. So
Yeah.
I do like that pick. I'm not going to be telling you, but I do like that pick from face value. So that's all your picks.
That's it.
All right. Well, that's going to be the end of the episode. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you're new to the podcast, please like and subscribe to the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you can. If you're watching on Spotify or Apple, I'm actually not sure if you can. But regardless, thank you so much for listening. We love you guys. Let's go Raiders and peace out.
To love.